Hello, welcome to the Selectmen's Meeting for April 2nd, 2019. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could I get a roll call?
Wayne Miller is present.
And Sue Licio is present. The meeting is called to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to announce that the meeting is being tape recorded. Anybody else recording? No. Chairman's additions or deletions. This is a revised agenda. We added an executive session at the end. I have no additions. Do you?
No, just the one that's on here. Is it? I got a revised one.
Oh, you got...
Revised agendas that are
Yeah. Isn't
6.1.
it the same?
No,
Oh,
we're on
another
Rep.
one.
3.
I thought they were the same.
That's it.
one you asked me to add
Oh,
yesterday.
that's right, yeah. We're adding 6.1, Townsend Water Department litigation regarding decision of the Superior Court. And Jim, you can handle that one under your
Correct.
updates if you like, okay?
Correct, yeah.
Public comment period. We allot some time. Anybody? No? Okay. We're actually a couple minutes early. On the 6 p.m., I'd asked if the treasurer and collector, the treasurer collector and the town accountant could come and talk about some of the policies and procedures, and Lori wasn't able to make it, so we might just postpone it, okay? In particular, what I was interested in was, especially since you're new here, sometimes fresh eyes come in and see something that we might be able to help with from a policy perspective in terms of helping you to create consistent ways of doing things. And that's more what I'm thinking about, okay? But certainly anything that you want to talk about. In particular, a bugaboo that I have is the difficulty that I have looking at the warrant and understanding what's, every department seems to do things just a little bit differently, and if I were doing the data entry from different formats, I'd be a little bit stressed. But, so that's one thing. The other thing that I'm really interested in understanding is how we handle both comp time and cash. Okay? So if things come in via cash, what are the procedures that folks follow?
I'll be happy to, familiarize you with those
Okay.
procedures.
All right. So we'll wait till Lori can join us,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah.
another night, but at
Yeah.
least that way you're...
Yeah, the warrant question is more for Lori. I'm more concerned about the total amount of the warrant, that I have to, make sure that the funds are available and release them in the bank. That's just my part, but,
Yeah.
The process of creating a warrant and what goes on it, that's more of the accountants.
Yeah, and-
she's more familiar with.
And that's why both of you were invited, because I'm also interested in what happens with cash.
Yes, and it's a very long process, from receiving the cash through different, through booking it and then reconciling it. And after I am reconciled to all our banks, we reconcile to the accounting, and that's the last step, and that's probably what Lori will be.
So do you actually have people that come in with cash to put either in town accounts or to pay their bills with?
Yes, people come to the office and they pay their either their property taxes or most recently motor vehicle tax, which was due on March 27th, and they pay either via cash or check.
Okay, so what about our departments? If any of our departments hold a function or whatever and they collect cash?
Oh, the departments, many departments collect cash, recreation department, for example, and they, how they bring the cash to the treasurers, it's called a turnover. They fill out a turnover form, and they bring checks and cash or proof to the deposit, because we offer online servicing, like again with the recreation, we have UniPay where they can, where people can pay and register the kids and just pay online.
So
It's
they're
the
just
same.
doing it automatically?
Yeah,
I don't
but
call that.
There's also cash, depending on the department.
Yeah.
Some departments receive more cash, some departments receive less. I would say the town clerk has the most cash. Those are small amounts for dogs' licenses, for different small things. So she brings quite a bit of cash. I think recreation too. And the cash that we receive in the office, we deposit. We have check scanner that we deposit to Fidelity Bank daily. And the cash deposits, we balance cash for payments and turnovers that we receive. We batch them up and put them in the locked drawer, and once a week I bring it to the bank.
All right.
What was the other one? So you had another
Oh, I know what it was. It was
transfer station.
the recycle
Yeah.
center.
Yeah.
In the recycling center, someone said that they had brought something to be recycled. I don't know if it was hard plastic, something like that. And they had to pay to leave it there because there's a charge when we bring certain things there. And they paid in cash. Are there procedures for receiving the cash from a customer in that situation?
Well, there are procedures in my office. The cash received in my office needs to be counted in front of either the resident or in front of the department that is processing turnover. And the same with the change, we count it and we give them change if it's due. And then there's another person that verifies cash. Always two people verify cash. And it's just my hope. I haven't been here for that long, and I have not been able to talk to all the departments, but I would hope that this same cash procedure is followed in all the departments. But it is a common procedure. The same procedure is followed in the banks. The same procedure is followed in the retail. So
Including receipts?
yes.
Okay, this particular person said they did not get a receipt.
They did not get a receipt.
Okay,
Right,
so
yeah.
that's why
Well,
I'm asking if we got procedures across the board. And it could have just been a missed transaction, I suppose.
we
but-
don't really give the receipt unless, well, with the cash, we usually give them a copy because they usually have a stub.
Well,
or
just
we
something
print
that
it. Yes, so
says-
it tells them, and we tell how much they gave us in cash. Yes.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how it's handled in the other departments as far as providing the receipt.
I just, because a resident brought that up, it's like, I just want to make sure that we're tight enough on things like that, and that all of the departments are following the same good measures. So that's why I was asking, what do we have for processes? It sounds like it maybe could be tightened up a little bit, Jim.
Yeah, I'll work with Anna to make certain that the policy she describes in her office is also being implemented any place in town where we're taking cash across the counter. I think part of the particular concern is that the recycling center, I was trying to say transfer station. Recycling center is an off-site, off-hour operation. So it's, when that money is collected, oftentimes, as I understand it, it's brought back at the end of a Saturday and then dropped, I believe, at the police station. But there's accountability once it's at the police station, but there's really nothing in terms of from the location where the cash is transactions occurring to the box in the police station.
Which is why if you have numbered receipts or something
Right.
like that, then you automatically have something to check it back
Right.
to. Okay.
So we can chase that.
Okay.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you. You can just come back with Lori and let us know then what else you found or suggestions that we might be able to help with to save time.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a very busy office. There's definitely the tax months are very busy. And
Keep the money coming.
Yep. Count it all.
Yep, thank you.
Feel free to stay with us till 10 tonight,
Yes.
too, if you'd like.
Yes, you can stay if you
Watch how we do
want.
things.
I think I'm all right.
Oh. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Jim, you can just give us an update on what happens on that,
Yep.
if you would, please.
You got it.
6:20, we're early, but are you all set?
I think so. Other than the nerves. I think I'm ready.
Recreation Commission to talk about, to give us a fitness court presentation.
Yeah.
And this is in relation to an article that's on the special, is this not?
National Fitness Campaign.
Annual, I believe. I'd have to check, actually.
It's on the special.
If you're remembering it clearly, then I'll go with you.
Well, don't count on it.
So thank you all for having me today. I'm Emmy Hoff with the Recreation Committee. I'm the director for Recreation. My members weren't able to make it tonight. A bunch of different things came up, so I'm flying a little solo. However, it's all good.
Welcome.
Thanks. Thanks again for having me. So we were approached, the Recreation Committee, as well as many recreation committees actually throughout Massachusetts, Tingsboro and Burlington of note. I'll get back there. We're approached by a company called National Fitness Campaign, and they had a very interesting and very fantastic proposal to present to us, an opportunity. So I'm going to play this video, and then I can talk a little bit about what we've been discussing and Q&As that we've gone through, and what recreation is looking for support-wise going forwards. Okay.
We returned in 2018 and built partnerships with over 100 cities. We've raised over $15 million to help make fitness a priority across America, and we're just getting started. Let's make world-class fitness free for everyone. Hi, I'm Mitch Menadgett, founder of the National Fitness Campaign. National Fitness Campaign started in 1979 when we invented the fitness court. Our first two fitness courts were at Stanford and San Francisco, and the mayor and Wells Fargo Bank got behind the program. So we opened fitness courts in 4,000 cities across America. We're introducing a new fitness court for the 21st century and launching a new national fitness campaign. The fitness court will allow you to use your own body weight to get a perfect workout. Our 7-movement, 7-minute system allows you to get a full body workout in just 7 minutes. 45 seconds of work at each station, followed by 15 seconds of rest. The system is progressive, so people at all fitness levels can use it. Easy or hard, it will work for everyone. You can come to the fitness court and do any workout. If you're training for a Tough Mudder or if you're running a marathon, the fitness court will work for you. You can download our mobile app, learn our routines, and take some of the fitness challenges. This will allow you to compete on the fitness court against your own score and against your friends. Campaign partners and sponsors will be providing exciting new elements in 2019. Digital training moves to Apple Watch audio guides. Regional training camps in 18 cities. Fitness court classes nationwide. The Fitness Court Challenge Series with local, regional, and national events. We're joining forces with city partners to build 200 fitness courts across America in 2019. NFC provides $30,000 in grant funding to match city adoption and local funding. National Fitness Campaign is a social enterprise and I take no salary, so all the money we raise goes directly to building fitness courts across America. We see the fitness court as the next step in the evolution of outdoor infrastructure.
I think it's amazing.
I love the fact that this is here and it's made here. It's awesome. You can do a ton of different kind of workouts here.
And at the end of the day, we all want a healthy, active community, no matter where we live.
We envision fitness courts joining basketball courts and tennis courts as essential elements of healthy infrastructure in cities and schools. Our goals are big, but the need is great. We're excited to work with you to build fit communities. Join us as we showcase the results of 100 cities who've partnered with us in 2018. Let's make world-class fitness free for everyone.
So the first question is, who can use a fitness court, I guess, right, Jim? So the fitness court is actually established for ages 14 plus, and they have programs all the way through for the ages, including the 60 plus community, which I've had the pleasure of having some conversations with folks around town in the various areas of public safety and seniors, and what are your questions? What are the concerns? What are we looking for? Seniors was definitely concerned. We have a very vibrant senior community in Townsend, and we wanted to be able to address that. And as I said, that was a question I brought directly to National Fitness Campaign, and they do have programs specifically for seniors that are adapted that way to utilize the equipment. So, Jim, there you go.
Thank you.
So, National Fitness Campaign. As I said, they came to us, they said, hey, this is an opportunity. Burlington and Tewksbury both have already gone through the process. Burlington is building theirs in the spring, and Tewksbury, I understand, is already in process, so theirs should be built already. They're also building one in Boston at one of the colleges. As of right now, and they have some other plans. They're talking to a few of the other towns locally to us as well. We started the process with a lot of questions, as I said. Is this right for Townsend? Are we our community that is focused on wellness? Do we care about wellness? Is it something environmentally that works for Townsend? And absolutely, we're the country. People that are out in the country, they like to be out in the country. So that's part and parcel of it. It goes with our trails. It goes with the fact that we are really going forwards with the bike path, that we're looking at what additionally we can do in Howard Park. I've had some conversations about that. What else can we, what are we going to do in the harbor? Is that eventually going to be kayaking? And are we going to have additional like what sort of things to create that drive and amenity for Townsend to be out and about and to be a healthy wellness community? So they came in, we had some conversations. They have an incredible plan with 40 years worth of experience behind them, and 40 years of success behind them. And in my conversations with the other local towns, they are also ecstatic and excited about this opportunity. You guys have folders in front of you. And in your folders is some of the basic information, overview information, what they provide, what the fitness court is, what it does, how it's built, who benefits, etc. The bottom line is the fitness court is a recreational amenity for a town. It's a value added. It's just like if you went to a hotel and they had a pool versus a hotel that didn't. It can be used, big concern, again, talking to the community members. What about winter? We're in New England. What about winter? Sometimes it snows and you can't do anything outside, and sometimes, like this winter, we could have been outside on it all winter long. A snowblower and some power wash and we're good to go. So we can't really say, oh, well, no, it's winter, we can't use it for 2 months. Well, maybe there's a winter we can't use it for 2 months, but maybe there's a winter like this one and we're totally fine. But we're getting base use out of it, at least from the beginning of spring all the way till midway through winter when we first start getting heavy snowfall. So talking with Tewksbury and Burlington as well as getting some of the feedback from the National Fitness Campaign, some of the out in the Midwest that get heavy snow and really weird inclement weather. Some of them have talked about putting gazebo structures over them in the future, that what have you, but it doesn't seem to be an issue. It's, snow blow it, power wash it, good to go. Questions about money? I guess that's the other one, right?
Oh, the things I'm circling?
Questions about money. Okay, so we already have the grant, the matching grant for $30,000. We applied for it, they gave it to us. Bottom line, they want it to come here. So, looking at funds, we went to capital planning. They were super excited about it. However, we have a lot in capital planning, and this is an amenity, right? So I spoke with National Fitness Campaign. It can all be rolled into the same fundraising crowdfunding. We are super lucky to be in Massachusetts because we have patronicity here. And patronicity Already spoke with them as well, are huge partners with National Fitness Campaign, and in Massachusetts we also have Mass Development, which partners with Patronicity to actually do crowdfund matching up to $40,000 to $50,000. They have an incredible, National Fitness Campaign has an incredible sponsorship package for sponsorships, for ambassadorships, all of the infrastructure we need for marketing, all of the infrastructure we need for fundraising. It's there already. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And they're fully supported and committed for media, for marketing, for all of it. All of the posters and all of the videos, everything's already in place. So it would just be a matter of us, what's best for our community, to put in the rest of the funds. So, no major concern. The funds are not the major concern. Here's the major concern. Actually, Sue, what's your major concern? Should I have questions before I go in for the big ask?
Where do
What
you
do you
put
got?
it?
That's the big ask.
That's the big ask.
That's the big ask. We'd like the lot right behind Town Hall.
Why?
So, space. In real estate, it's location. For something like this, ease of use. Security is already in place. Lights are already in place. We've already got, fire department is right there. The police come through on a very regular basis. It's easy access to the rail trail. It's easy access to a run route through Worcester Road. And because it's not on Main Street directly, it's also still safe for pedestrians coming in and out. Here was the question. What about parking? Everybody asked me, what about the parking? What about the parking? So, I had some conversations. I had some conversations with Rich. I had some conversations with Jim over at Highway. What about parking? What do we do? So, I'll give you a couple. So this is just general. It's nothing specific. These are approximates according to what we have for the laws in place right now, the 9x20. And I can kind of I can explain to you what it all means.
What am I looking at?
Plot number 15.
Thank you.
Okay.
So 11 is Town Hall.
11 is Town Hall.
Okay.
So, if you are, sorry guys, you can't, I don't have this for everybody. I couldn't, my scanner wasn't working, I'm so sorry. Do you want me to copy these really quick? You want to copy that? Okay. You want to put parking to the side really quick while she does copies? Just wait a minute. Or do you want me to go into the
Well,
next
I
place?
don't want to interrupt your flow either.
I don't got a flow. I'm just rolling.
Well, you're on a roll and keep going.
Okay, so plot number 15 is right behind us. My dad, engineer, architect for 50 plus years, went through with the schematics that we got from Town Hall, with the law that we got from the Highway Department on parking spaces, did all the calculations, did the scale, and put together what I would consider would be optimal use for that space so that we could have the parking that we're looking for, still have recreation area, and a free zone for play. Because we do use that space as well. So what we have for different numbers, you'll see down in plot 11, it says one car requires 180 square feet. That's the 90x20. That does not include the actual circulation of getting in and out of the space. That's actually about 300 square feet. Okay? What is back there, and you'll see on the drawing, you have in place, I don't know if you can see here. Here, these are the trees. Basically, again, we didn't go out and do the exact measurements of how far that went in, so this is all approximating, with the exception of these numbers. These are actual data numbers of what the acreage is and what have you. So, there was no trees, there was no landscape lumps, there was no bumps, there was nothing, you could, just at the 300 square feet, put in 90 cars in that lot. Realistically, 70. I mean, because people don't always park really the way they need to, and you want to put a walkway in and what have you. If we took out what we were looking for the court, which is 0.213 acres, and you'll see there's an area right here, this square, and then these X marks. You see that, the square right here with the X marks. So this is the court, and this is the area that the hope is to actually get this fenced off so that it's a grass recreation area, and we don't have cars actually up onto the court, right? So taking that out, you get that space itself, you're losing 12 car spaces realistically in that free zone of parking. So the final question is, in that 4.411 acres left of land, how much parking can we actually get in there? If we account for circulation, handicap walkway, handicap parking space, and the grass, realistically, 40 to 45 cars could actually park there. So we're not really losing a multitude of parking spaces or a huge volume of parking for what we use it for the 3-4 times a year that we have overflow in that space as well as the back space. Anybody have any? Yeah.
Does the company install this?
Okay, so installation of the project. That is, so you guys don't actually have that sheet, they do. The installation can be done by the town itself, Public Works, contractors that we have, what have you, or we can contract it out. It's up to us. Some towns build it themselves. I actually have all the schematics, the installation instructions, everything. It still has to be inspected, so it's not like we'd be able to jerry-rig something unsafe and then say, hey, public, use it. It still would need to be inspected like any other outdoor. So we could either get a contractor in and do the actual installation, or the town itself can take that responsibility and install it. Still covered by warranty, still has to be inspected, same 6 of one, half dozen of the other, either way.
What is the warranty?
So there's a bunch of different warranties for the different parts on it. Let's see if I can pull that up. Do you guys have that in there? Is the warranty in that one by any chance? Or I might just have it in my, I couldn't print all of it for everybody, I'm sorry. Let me see if I have it in installation. Or is it in my launch? Official documents, let me see. I know I have it, it's just gonna be a matter of finding it.
To tell you the truth, I'm more interested in the
Sure.
feasibility of it right now.
Sure, what are the concerns? I will find that.
Do you know, I mean, obviously, if we enter into any kind of contract, it's gonna be pretty well scrutinized in terms of
Everything.
of that, so.
Of course.
Did you figure out the way that field is today? How many cars we do fit in there? Or can?
So no, we've looked, what we could, like I said, realistically, what we could fit in there
70.
is 70 cars. If everybody parked in alignment, in actual parking spaces with the proper circulation and 2 vehicle entrance and egress.
And the thing says you can only have 28 people at any given time.
Correct.
On the thing, so the parking shouldn't be an issue.
Right, and
Court,
regulations
in
for,
the court. No, I meant
Yeah.
parking for this building.
Right, for the,
Right.
the overflow for elections.
For elections and
Town meeting.
whatnot, okay?
so the regulations for
I
Massachusetts.
want to know what we're
for-
losing in terms of that, okay? Because it's always been an issue. The other thing is that I don't see, and it's probably just not on here, but I don't see a digress from the parking area, if you will, to the town hall that would be,
It's right here. This is your walkway.
okay, so that would be the
And there's a
walkway.
gate here, and you'd be able to go straight up here.
Okay.
We'd also do a gate in
And
this,
it would
where the
have to be
X's are.
handicapped.
Yes.
accessible
Yeah,
and
it'd be
all.
hard pack. I talked with Rich about that. There's a hard pack that can be done for handicap for up that, and that's
Okay, so it
that's a
sounds
4
like there's a
foot.
couple of expenses potentially. And we're just talking theoretically here.
Yes.
But one of the expenses is to prepare the site, if you will, okay? And the other one is the actual building, purchasing and building of the court.
So that all comes
Do you know
under.
do you know where the rail trail's gonna potentially go in
So-
relationship to this?
I spoke with. Who did I speak with about that? Kim, do you?
Dawn, hey,
Dawn,
Dawn's
do you know?
here.
Dawn, do you
Yes,
know?
I can tell you.
Do you
the rail
have-
trail
Do you have
is
this?
going- Yes, I do. The rail trail will end on the other side of 13 before you get to where Napa is. It's going to end right where
Behind like Napa?
before Napa, near where the storage
Yeah, the
units and
storage.
stuff are.
That's what
Okay.
Irene had said, yeah.
It'll end right there.
But the hope is to extend it even beyond that at some point too. I know you haven't gotten it yet,
Yeah, at
but
some point beyond there's a financial and a lot of construction
that's
problems for that section.
details.
The first phase, which is due to kick off if everything goes according,
November,
is
right?
November 1st. So, but it will end right there, next to where that deal
Okay, so
continues.
phase one would end just before we get to the auto parts store.
Correct.
Okay, which is not
It's not even 5
far.
minutes walking,
It's not
yeah.
far, not even,
Yeah,
even for
not
me,
even.
I could
Yeah,
do
not
that.
even. It's a hop, skip, jump.
No, I don't know if I want to hop, skip, and jump. Behave yourself. Hey, Emmy gave him a bigger one.
A little bit.
Uh-huh.
A little bit.
Okay, so,
I do have a question too for that.
we just, I like it. Okay, you've done your homework, okay?
You're welcome to any
You've done
of
your
it.
homework.
You're welcome to any of it. I've got a lot of homework there if you want to go through
No,
it.
that's okay. I'm just not sure about it yet.
Have you looked at other places in town?
See, what I was
We
gonna
have.
just bring up is we have a recently resurrected properties committee. And the properties committee is the one that if you hadn't already said, gee, I really like that place, and even though you have, the properties committee would probably be the best next step for us, is to say to the properties committee, this is what we're looking at, this is, what recreation
There
is.
is rules underneath the grant about location, because it does have to be accessible, it does have to have central location, it does have to, there are some rules about that. And we did look at other public land in Townsend, and what makes this appealing is that there's already an infrastructure in place for a lot of that. So what we'd have to fundraise beyond that and still be able to give back the town actual parking instead of the sort of grab can back there could be helpful.
I just feel like, especially since we just renewed the properties committee in terms of what their responsibilities are. Normally, if you had come to us and said, gee, we'd like to do this, where could we do it? Then we'd say to the properties committee, we got a job for you, can you look and see, given the criteria, where would you recommend? And ask them for a recommendation. So I don't want to usurp their responsibility.
Did that happen very recently?
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah.
I mean, it was just in the
This
last,
is-
just in the last few months.
Yeah, so that would, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of almost dovetailed.
I honestly, I'm happy to meet with them. I'm happy to go over what the requirements are and what they're, you
Just
know.
rubber stamp it if that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Like I said, we have looked at other properties. It's not that we just said, oh, let's just go here.
Okay, so
we did
I
look a
would do
little
devil's
bit.
advocate now.
Please.
Did you look at Howard Park?
We did. Parking is impossible, and that is one of there's just the access to it, ease of access. I run back in Howard Park.
Howard Park from where? From the middle school?
From the middle school, sure, there's parking, but you're still going to have to be hiking through the woods to get to wherever we're going. A lot of people don't want to hike through the woods. That's why it doesn't get used at the volume that we're looking for. For something like this, I can't put it out in the middle of the woods. We can't protect it that way. We have an elements issue at that point that we're going to have to deal with, a lot more maintenance that we're going to have to deal with that creates, not to mention cutting down a bunch of trees to fit the space. And getting the equipment in and out for the concrete pad and the installation. It's just not, it's in the woods for a reason. It's Howard Park. And we could certainly, I'd be happy to work with conservation and work with the Boy Scouts and continue to work those trails and make that a part of recreation and assist in any way. But this isn't something that would fit in Howard Park.
Have you talked to the schools?
I talked with the athletic director at the high school. because he oversees all the athletics, obviously, and we're talking about a fitness court. Not that not everybody has to be an athlete. Let's not say that. I talked to a bunch of people, and he's absolutely in love with the idea and happy
I
to
was
support
thinking
us.
more in terms of some space for
So
one of their fields.
space, again, space is possible, not necessarily probable, and then we have to deal with the issue of what do we do for safety of the school while this is open and free to the public, and how often do we have to shut it down for the schools? Because as we know, like the parks and the fields are closed during school times, and when fields are in use. So that creates a, well, why even bother?
Okay, I want to make sure that we're having all of the conversations that we need to
Absolutely.
have, and not
Absolutely.
getting into, well, yeah, but.
And this goes to my
I don't
question.
like the yeah, buts, do you know?
No, I know, and this goes to my question that I have about it is insurance.
Yep,
How does that?
it's just like a playground, it's just like a park.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
So do they have?
Signage goes up,
Are there waivers?
yep, and signage goes up just like a playground does, just like a tennis court does, anything that you have in a town, a skateboard park, the signage goes up, it's basically use at your own risk. That's what it is, as long as the equipment's in good repair, which is part of our job. And again, there's warranties, there's inspections, just like a playground would have. It's use at your own risk.
My, I hear my husband in my mind right now, because he was on the recreation when they built the life course in Howard Park. The life course, it's sad to see that it's just deteriorated into
I didn't even know that was a
nothingness.
recreation thing.
Yes, it was recreation. He would have liked your idea. But it was all about getting people out, and the idea, the concept of the life course was you're enjoying nature and the sereneness of the surroundings. You're benefiting from that, which is again what new concept, have yoga near the river. I mean, it's history repeating itself, but the life course was designed to do that same kind of thing, to bring fitness to the folks enjoying the outdoors at the same time. So
this is an outdoor fitness court, but it's not necessarily about enjoying the outdoors. It's about doing fitness in the outdoors. So when I go to Howard,
understand.
like I said, I run those trails, and I do occasionally, I see the jumping jacks, and I'll do my thing. So the tire, again, I would love to assist in getting Howard Park in that place so that we can do yoga out there, deal with the bug situation. The tire was covered in poison ivy last time I was out there. So, I'd be
With
happy
goats.
to be working. Yeah, I'd be happy. I love me some baby goats. So we got to call Mitzi and see if we can borrow her goats. See if we can borrow her goats. But yeah, again, happy to work on that. But this is something different. This is a fitness court for all levels, out, easy access. You can do just a 7 minutes in and out, or you can do it as circuit training. You can do it as challenges. You can do it as
it
large
doesn't
groups.
look like it
all of
takes
it.
that much room.
It doesn't. It's all total with the cement pad. It's 38 by 38.
Small basketball court.
Yes.
What do you need to do next?
So there's not any place over at the middle school, like near the courts that just
Well, I was-
got done over?
So it's water down by the tennis courts. That's the problem
Yeah,
there.
on that side.
And then you've got the sports fields, which are highly coveted because we've lost some.
But what
Right.
about the open area by the library?
Septic.
So that's a
You've got
septic,
septic there.
and yeah, there's a, yeah.
I don't know, I mean,
I know.
We found that during the circus.
We found that about the circus. They
Absolutely.
couldn't even do the tent spikes. They were just, the 6 inches was too long. So,
I guess the best thing to do, I think, I mean, you picked one, obviously, is have a list of what you ruled out and why,
okay.
that, for the properties.
I think that it's,
Because we can sit here all night and come
Yeah.
up with ideas.
I think
and-
we need to refer it, my feeling is we need to refer it to properties
Yes,
and let,
and let them do the review.
They may know of something else
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
They
I'd
may
be happy
have
to-
another solution. If not, then they're gonna,
Who's on the committee? Okay.
if not, then,
Yeah.
Let's start there and then we can,
Yeah.
and they may look at it and say that makes perfect sense. And then, just to go over the money part again.
Sure.
You said
Do you guys
that
have
you
this?
already have the grant. Which one?
Healthy campaign budget overview? You guys have that one?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. About that. I don't have extras of this either. I'm sorry, guys. I just did the basic thing for you. This is just the campaign budget overview, basically what it encompasses. The fitness court and campaign is $120,000 total for the court, the fitness season, the launch kit, the ecosystem that comes with it, the marketing, all of it, the mobile app that stays with us forever. And that's one of the things that makes it so relevant. That mobile app that we'll be able to use will continue to grow with the technology, which is maybe in a couple of years we get holograms out there running this fitness court with us. I don't know. And then these are completed by and possible costs, whether we do it by ourselves or whether we have contractors for the things like the concrete slab. And we do have some really incredible masons and concrete guys in this area. It's going to be very much like the rec building. We're going to be looking to the community, and if anybody wants to donate time, donate, materials, etc., as part of that campaign. And then we've got the fitness court assembly. If we're completing it ourselves, it's nothing. Again, these are they're average across the entire country. So what it is in Massachusetts may be different from what it is in Omaha versus California. So we have to look at that. And then the graphics installation, and that typically falls under the pricing of the sponsorships, because it's their graphics. So
I have a question
I
on
can
the
do copies for you.
advertising and promoting.
Sure.
There's only, there's less than 9,000 people in the town. How much promoting do you think we need to do?
So they do a big launch. Everybody's going to need promotions. It's going to be, we'll do newspaper, we'll do media, we'll do the whole thing. Because we have 9,000 people in our town, but we are also a district. So we want this for the residents of Townsend, but we're not necessarily closing the gates. We want to be a pioneer city for wellness. This is a really cool thing. And it would be exciting for everybody to know that we're doing this, that we're putting in a fitness court. It's the first of its kind in this area. But advertising, again, their stuff, what we're going to put in for marketing and promotions monetarily is not a whole lot. They have it already.
Well, it looks like, the reason I asked is it looks like it's included in the cost.
Oh, it is. All of this that I already received.
And if you can
and I
do
have-
without it and do your own, how much would you be saving, is what I'm getting at.
Everything's already there. They're not doing, we're not paying them to do anything new. This is part of their package.
This is prepackaged marketing.
It's prepackaged marketing. It's
Yeah, but
the
it
video.
costs the money.
Right, but it's
We're paying
it's
for it.
already-
I don't care if they list it on here or not. We're paying for
Well,
it.
like the video that I showed you, that's part of their marketing.
I understand, but
It's a package.
And this, it's a package. Yeah.
Kind of like trying to buy your car with
Okay.
hand crank
Yeah, I
windows
couldn't
nowadays.
pull that part
I
out,
tried.
or the installation part, like, they all come, or the sponsorship part, I definitely, that all comes as part of it.
okay, so where's the money gonna come from here?
So primarily, again, we've got 30,000 from them. We've asked capital planning for 30,000 to put that through. It's probably not going to happen, so we're going to have to roll that into the crowdfunding. So crowdfunding, as I said, is patronicity. So we'll work with patronicity on local fundraising, sponsorship, which is corporation, hospitals, educational facilities, etc. Not just in Townsend, but in this entire area, because companies like to have their names on something that's innovative, and that health and wellness is not just trending, but it is relevant and has been for a very long time. So.
Can you explain what crowdfunding is to people?
Oh, I'm sorry. So crowdfunding is basically a platform in which all fundraising goes in online to one entity, and then as a group, the requests and the sponsorships all go out, and it all goes into one place, and then your funds can be matched by other grants and other entities that are in partnership with that program.
So a lot of the times with patronicity, you'll find people that are philanthropic that will have they have 10 grand that they want to donate someplace and get a tax write-off.
Yep.
They look through Patronicity's menu and say,
See,
that's a
oh, that
cool
looks
thing.
neat.
I'm going to donate 10.
Yep.
So we put 10 in, that person's 10 matches it, they
Yes.
get the write-off, we get 20 grand.
Right. So that's one of the huge benefits. We're not saying, oh, we have to come up with $90,000 all by ourselves. We're coming in saying, okay, we need 45, and we're going to match it out. I will say too, National Fitness Campaign is really great about helping you find grants that are also fall in that bailiwick for health and wellness and these kind of structures. So that's all part and parcel of this package.
I don't know how Capital feels
Did you have
about it.
something?
May I ask?
Andrea had I want to go to Andrea. She had her hand up earlier.
Sorry.
Andrea?
No, my question's been answered.
Okay, thanks.
Mine was just related to master plan.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you invited me to a meeting and I was
Sorry.
out of state, so I apologize for asking now. What is your time frame for this, and could you help us phrase a question, because we're doing a community survey about a multitude of different facilities that people desire? We didn't have this one on the list, but I think it should be included, and we've got about a week.
So we have the grant in place for calendar year 2019. We have to take possession of the installation package by December 31st. And we can build it at any point next year, but we'd have to take possession of that by the end of this calendar year.
What do you mean by take possession?
We get it in pieces, so we have to take possession of it. So if we're not gonna build it until next spring, or if we have to wait until the fall to finalize everything, then we're gonna have to store it, and we'll have to do that.
Oh, you mean
The components.
delivery?
The components, right, yes,
Delivery of the
delivery by,
stuff.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd be happy to help you put together.
You don't
an
have
answer,
any
but we're
place
looking
to
at
put it.
Calendar year
Okay.
2019, finalized to be built in 2020.
Okay. I'll give you a call before master plan.
Give me a buzz, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. I'd happy to give you any of this information.
Okay.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to ask Jim to draft a letter to properties
I move
to
that.
work with Recreation on finding the,
If I may, prior to that, the Properties Committee's charge is on acquisition and maintenance.
And
this-
use of.
this- No, actually, it doesn't fall. It doesn't mean that they can't do it, but the specific bylaw that we have in town is they advise you on acquisition, disposition, and maintenance.
but this would be disposition. We have town property, and we're saying, how would we use that? Why is that not covered by properties?
I would
It's
say-
how you're gonna use it.
The way I read it, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't go to property, I just want to make sure that we're all understanding the same language. Disposition is contemplated in that bylaw in terms of getting an appraisal, finding out the value, and then putting it out for disposition outside, disposing of it from the town's rolls. So either acquiring into the town's possession or disposing from the town's possession. I mean, I think all the people you're hitting with properties would be involved anyway, so I don't think there's, you know.
Well,
we're
if
gonna
they
be-
think that it's not in their bailiwick, then they can send it back to us. But I mean, that's what they're supposed to concentrate on. And I would hope that they, if there's other places that they want to suggest, that they're going to come back and report why this one is better than another. That's what I'm looking for. I don't want that to be, I don't think it's just our decision. I think it's more of a community decision, and I
As I
think
said, I'm happy to speak
it
with
should
that.
be, it should be well vetted.
You know,
And the other question I had for Emmy is the intention to actually have fundraising sufficient to create the parking on the balance of the property or not?
so that's what my goal is. That's what I would like to do. I'd like to be able to do that as a
So
two-parter.
that's not included in this cost?
No, it's a
That-
grassy
that
field
remains grass.
that's been there
Right.
for however long. So
It
yes,
remains grass.
it remains grass. But depending on how we set it up to get the field prepared for the concrete pad and the installation, we can certainly at least get it leveled out so that we can utilize all of that instead of having those humps at the end and the big divot on the
Well, I'm more
left-hand side.
concerned about the
what have you.
access, either like a sidewalk or
That'll be
pathway
there.
or
That's
something.
Yep. Yep, and again, very similar to what we put at the building, so that we have that hard access walkway up to the fitness court.
So I move that we authorize town administrator to draft a letter to the properties committee to meet with
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time, everybody.
I'll second that. More discussion, no? All those in
everyone.
favor?
I'm gonna get that
Aye.
copy for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Emmy.
Thanks, guys. I'm gonna leave the cover for you.
Nice job, Em. Thank you.
I'm walking up.
Okay, and it's almost 7. Two point 3, discussion with the Finance Committee, and we are going to go over warrant articles for the annual and special town meeting. Do we have copies of those?
Put it up on the screen.
Oh, good.
Have they added money to the articles yet?
I hope so.
For the ones that we have it, yes. Obviously, the special town meeting, we don't know yet what snow and ice is actually going to be, or those types
Well,
of
that
things.
was a given, but I mean, because there was a lot of blanks we had.
Yep, we'll see it when we put it
Hard
up
to
here.
vote on that, is it, Glenn?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right, so who's smart enough to get this to light up? So it's the power button.
You two are just giving me so much to.
No, that's on me.
Don't blame me.
You want me to start working in tech service? Make sure it's plugged in.
Let me see how to get this so it shows better.
Let me know when you want to kill the lights, Jim.
Any recommendation on how I can get that to show better? That's the size of one page, but
I don't know.
is that terribly out of focus or is that my eyes?
It's fine.
Wow,
If you hit the maximize, maybe? Is it maximize?
yeah, it's already out there.
You might be able to stretch it a little.
Yeah, you can pull it manually, just put your mouse on it and pull it up.
Yeah, do that, okay. Now go down to the very bottom.
Yeah, I don't have any room on the screen down here though, so I'm maxed out down here.
No, pull the frame.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, that's showing the entirety of my screen right there.
Gotcha, all right.
So, we'll just work with this. So this document is going to be, once there are a couple more tweaks needed, but they're really minor. We'll see them as we go through. This is going to be the special and annual town meeting warrants, the fiscal 2020 budget book, and the voter's guide to town meeting. There's also a glossary of terms. So when you go through this document, you will see table of contents we'll get to. This is going to show you everything, obviously, that's in the book. But first thing we're going to get to is going to be the warrant. So special town meeting. You're going to see Article 1 is prior fiscal year bills. We don't have any. That's kind of a standard that we carry in case something pops. Nothing as of yet. Article 2 would be the snow and ice. We're carrying right now a plug number of $150,000 on our free cash tally. We talked about it at the last meeting. Actually, it's just cresting 100 right now, and God willing, we won't have any other storms.
So the 150 should be more than sufficient, but we'll know that better once the last invoices have been processed. Next, we get to Article 3 would be for legal budget. We're going to need to supplement the legal budget. We don't yet know that number. We'll know better the closer we get to the annual town meeting.
Do we have an approximate?
We're carrying 15 right now in the free cash tally, but we'll know better as we get closer.
Does that help you, Lynn?
And then Article
Something.
Yeah.
Article 4, Finance Committee Reserve. We had a discussion at the last meeting about using a plug of $15,000 for that, primarily looking at covering what we expect Joe's going to be coming in for on veterans. But obviously that's at the discretion of the Finance Committee how much they'd look to put in the warrant article there. Article 5, we get into the Highway Superintendent, and that's for line painting on public ways for public safety purposes. And this would be on roadways outside of roadways that are contemplated to be reconstructed, repaved, or otherwise addressed in the pavement management plan.
And that's primarily to do like the
fog lines.
fog lines?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Article 6 is office equipment and furnishings for the Council on Aging. You might remember this was originally requested as a part of the operating budget, decided to be pulled out because it's more of a one-time expense and not something that should appear as a blip in the operating budget. Next, you'll see Article...
That also allows them to get it this fiscal year.
Absolutely. Yep. Article 7 would be $10,000. This is a Board of Health article for woody debris, for the purpose of woody debris. I guess there's a word or two missing there. For the purpose of woody debris at the recycling center. To removal of. That'd be chipping, yeah. And we do have members of the Board of Health and the Health Administrator, if you wanted to. I know that at some point you had on the agenda to talk with them about this.
Yeah, we have it on the agenda after this.
Okay. Article 8 is if it was a placeholder put in by Rec in case there was going to be a request for matching funds for the project that you just had presented. My understanding is, based on what we just heard, is that there won't be.
I would not want that on there now. I don't think we're ready for it.
Well, it's there.
It's unfortunate that we didn't hear about it before.
So that's the entirety of the special. Any questions on the special?
You guys okay on the special?
Yeah.
What you got?
Well, we talked about Article 4. So that's replacing money now
Correct.
versus,
But we decided at a meeting that we really
Yeah.
didn't need to do it, since it couldn't be done until May anyway, within the special.
Which one?
May, you can already go
Yeah.
for municipal funds, municipal transfers.
Yep.
So there's no reason to tie up money more in the reserve fund.
right,
Which one are you talking about?
Article 4. Because that would be for this year.
So for the Finance Committee Reserve Fund. So,
So we just pass over it at town meeting then?
sure.
If
Yeah,
that's
special.
the case, but
Yep,
we...
that's entirely at your discretion.
Yeah, if we're, we figured they'd go the other way.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask a question about the municipal transfer, the fiscal year up above? Is that, I think it was the very first one. So it was my understanding that last year there was an increase for the Neshoba Board of Health, I think a 5% submitted on the budget, and it did not make it into the budget. So now we're getting an invoice that we do not have the funding for. So wouldn't that be in that article on how to get this, so that
Yeah.
when we go to town meeting, that it's actually
No,
transferred?
it's actually not a prior year. That's the current year that we're still in.
All right, okay.
This would be for something from fiscal 18. So if somebody had an invoice that was in the back of the file cabinet that they didn't realize, and holy smokes, we can't pay this today, even if we had the money in our budget because it's from a prior year. It's illegal to pay. That's for those types of things.
Okay.
The issue that you're talking about, Carla and I have talked about, and that's consistent with what Lynn just said. Once we get into May, we're allowed to do municipal relief transfers.
Okay.
So if there's, 27 cents in this budget over here and we need it over here, there's a process before the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen to make that transfer.
Do we have to submit to the Finance Committee that?
Carla will work that issue once the time clicks and we're able to do that.
In May,
And she'll bring
yeah.
it before you guys.
We have until July, we have until,
You can do a partial payment on the invoice now, yes.
And then they're gonna have to wait till May to get, or wait till it's approved to get the rest.
It'll be about a month, yeah. Once we hit May, we're able to start that process.
Okay, thank you for clarification on the article.
Anything else on the special?
With the, was it the one with the wood?
With the wood, yes.
The debris.
I'm sorry, if I may, please? The article for the wood debris removal, the Board of Health has also been working with the tree warden and the highway department, and we would respectfully request that it show that the highway department and the tree warden are also asking for it to be submitted through those departments as well, and not just the Board of Health.
If you want to just have them email something, just so we have that record, because we just want to have
Absolutely.
everything confirmed.
Absolutely, thank you.
Moving into the annual. So, Article 1 is the standard Article 1 about appointing officers unless other provisions are made by Mass General Law. Article 2, any reports from boards or committees. We do have the Charter Review Committee that is currently up and operational. They would have the opportunity to either present a report here or later when the placeholder for their article appears in the warrant.
You can put numbers in this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, once we know how many are in or out and what the final number is.
Article 2?
Yes, that would be Article 2. Next, you'll see the standard, the appointment of the 3 West Townsend residents to serve on the James H. Sucker Fund. Next, you get to the revolving fund. This is, it's considered a unanimous consent article. It used to be that you did each of these individually, and with the Municipal Modernization Act, you're now allowed to do these as one consent grouping. So you'll see the fund, recycling, recreation programs, facilities maintenance, cemetery, the authority to spend, so who can spend it, what the revenue source is, so where the money comes from that goes into these revolving funds, what the funds can be used for, and what the limitation is. Something new this year is under recreation. It used to say under use of funds, just operating costs associated with recreation programs. The auditors suggested this year that they expand that to say and capital costs, which would then allow them to utilize rec funds, rec receipts for capital, including for any matching funds for the project that was just presented by Emmy.
so they're contemplating paying for some of that?
I don't think they're contemplating paying for some of it as much as the auditor, when they were beginning to research this and they were looking at whether they could use their funds, the auditors said you can't with it written the way it is. If you want to even open the possibility to have that discussion, you need to add the words capital costs, which is what this.
And that would cover something like their roof or something?
It could cover any capital costs, yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, just any non-programmatic issue. Yep. So next we get into the FY20 operating budget. So this one, when you get to the bottom of this article, you'll see the big line there that says the line item detailed budget can be found beginning on page 65 of this book. Now, there was much ado last year about having two different versions, having the omnibus, which is just the department with salary and expense, and then also having the full line item unrolled version. I heard from you guys this year that you wanted to have better clarity on that and you preferred the detailed line item budget.
Especially since that's what we've worked with all
Yep.
year. You know.
So when you fast forward to page 65, you'll get to that budget. So, I'm sorry?
Is it possible to turn the light up a little bit? These folks are trying to read what's in front of them, too.
So, in the beginning of the article, before we go to page 65, you'll see the usual and customary to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, so that's taxation, or transfer from available funds, and then you have the available funds listed below following the asterisks, in the Treasury, such sums that may be necessary to defray the charges and expenses for the town for fiscal year 2020 pursuant to a detailed budget totaling $23,270,992, or take any other action there too. The other available funds are listed. Those, again, are relatively standard from year to year. Next, you'll see description. This year, trying to add a piece of descriptive language at the end of each article, just so people have something to refer back to. So, usual and customary town budget fiscal year 2020 begins July 1st, 2019. As is customary, you'll be voting the total for each of the following functional segments with asterisks shown below and is shown in the black bars with asterisks beginning on page 65 and ending on page 104. So basically, you're looking at the functional segments of general government, public safety, education, streets and highways, solid waste, human services, culture and recreation, debt service, insurances, and then the grand total. So I'll go to page 65.
So where does the moderator direct people?
We're going to go to page 65.
All right.
So we get down to page 65.
Because to have the totals at the very beginning, I'm concerned that people may look at that and say, this is what we're voting on, it's just these totals. I mean, in essence, that's what we end up voting on, but it's through the process of looking at the detail. So
if there's a way that you'd suggest we can write that more clearly than the piece that I just read, just send me a couple words. I mean, what that, I'll go back up to it.
I'm used to seeing totals at the end rather than totals at the beginning.
But you need the totals in the warrant article itself.
So just the pros is what I'm suggesting, and then do the tables at the end, because it's the total of everything that you just looked at. If there are changes as you're going through, those totals are going to change as well.
Absolutely. Let's go down to 65 and see how it fits. Okay. So, what we have here is what you've all become accustomed to, but does not yet have, and this is the first of the tweaks that I still need to make, does not have the lines, the numbered lines on the left-hand column, which makes it very easy for people to refer to when they're looking at it. My question is on line 37, so I got to bake that back in. It also does not yet carry that top header on every page that follows, and I know how important that has been. So just today is when I rolled this in and changed all the formatting to try to get it to line up, so that's still yet to be done. So you'll see by department, in this case Board of Selectmen, the line items that comprise personnel, then the personnel total, and then the line items that comprise the expenses. I shouldn't be working off a live document.
Just don't hit the save button.
And then total of Board of Selectmen. Finance Committee, total Finance Committee. So it runs the length. It has the notes on the right-hand side if there's anything that is noteworthy over last year. So you'll see here under accounting, town accountant salary, the note is market recruitment rate. So that rate goes up from $69,844 up to $80,000. Doesn't mean you're going to spend it, but it means that the decision's been made collaboratively with the Finance Committee and the Select Board to appropriate the money in case it's necessary to recruit. So this will go to the point I was making, Sue, about the end of the first functional segment is going to be general government. Right here. What'd you say? So, general government. So, I'm inside this document, which is why it's highlighted that way right now. But you'd see the asterisks, total general government, and the number 1,682,428 in the recommended column. That number ties back to that front chart. So what you're saying, if I understand, is to take that chart out of there, just have the total budget number, the 23,470,792, read into the motion, and then not show the functional segments and the totals until at the end of the overall budget.
The way that it's typically done is each segment is voted on. So it would be, everybody looks at the whole thing and you vote on the total government line.
Yeah, the way I've seen John do it is, anybody have any questions on anything within general government? We'll start Board of Selectmen,
Right.
Town Accountant, Legal, and then that section's, right, then that section's done. Yep. So, do folks want to continue with warrant articles?
Yes, please.
Okay, so, had enough of the
I've
budget?
seen that budget.
All right, so we then get up to, so there's the detailed budget. So we'll have some discussion about if there's a better way of handling the functional segment block there, either having it here or having it at the end. So that'll just be
I
it.
think the main thing is that John understands that the intent is to just be showing you.
Yep. And toward that point, you remember that for the first time this year, we're going to do a mock town meeting. So we're going to set up in here, John and I, we're going to go over, very much like this, but a little cleaner, up on the screen, each of the articles in the warrant. It'll be open to the public if people have a specific question. If not, it'll be run on TV, the week leading up to the meeting, so people will have the benefit of being able to watch through it.
And the date that we set for that?
That's the 30th, the week before town meeting, Tuesday the 30th.
Okay, so Tuesday the 30th, and can we put that on the website?
Absolutely, yeah.
Please?
Yep. So, after the regular budget, we end up down into the requirement that we vote to fix the salary and compensation of elected officers of the town. The only one we have is the town clerk. So, while her salary would have been voted in the budget article just before, it's required just as a formality that it be voted in the article below. Next, you get to the water department budget. In this case, coming in at $1,087,583 from Water Enterprise Fund revenues to operate the water department for fiscal year 2020, and in order to fund the cost of intermunicipal expenses, $280,935 of the sum to be appropriated into the general fund. In the description, this is the article to fund the annual operating budget for the water department, including overhead for intermunicipal expenses carried in the general fund budget. So what does that mean? That means that there are employees that work in the water enterprise who have insurance. The insurance is budgeted in the general fund. So we bill, in essence, the enterprise for their pro rata share of that expense.
It's almost like a transfer.
It is, exactly that. Yep.
Raising the money for the intermunicipal receipts,
Yep.
we never do that. If you talk to the accountant, the money is taken out as it comes in. They
It's actually
used
below.
to put an article in, but it just ties that money up. It won't even come out of there. They'll just do it by the process.
No. What you'll see, and we've been doing this the year before the Collins Center came in, we did this, and clearly since they came in as a best practices recommendation, is to show it as a portion of the overall operating budget for the water enterprise, and then correspondingly, we show it as a revenue coming in the revenue projections for the general government general fund. So
That's like best practice
that is,
recommendation?
yep, that comes in from the Commonwealth, under the Collins Institute from UMass Boston when they came in and did the budget process for us.
All right, thank you. I didn't know that.
Yep. Then we get into debt exclusion articles. The debt exclusion articles. The first is to see if the town will vote to borrow the sum of $5 million to fund a townwide pavement management plan, PMP, for the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, is authorized to borrow said amount under Chapter 44, Section 7.3 of the general law, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes therefore, given that no amount shall be borrowed or expended unless and until the town shall have voted to exclude the amounts required to repay any borrowing hereunder from the limitations of total property taxes imposed by Chapter 59, 21C of the general laws, debt exclusion. Description. This would be to fund a 3-year capital pavement management plan to address a significant backlog of required public roadway repairs and reconstruction, as is further detailed in the report entitled Pavement Management Summary, drafted by the town's paving consultant, the Beta Group. The report is available for review on the town website and in the selectman's office and at the library. Footnote. I received an email that was supposed to have the final report attached to it today saying that it will be here tomorrow morning. So I don't yet have that to have on the town website, but as of tomorrow morning, it's supposed to be being presented.
You're testing to see how calm I can stay.
No, I know you and I have talked about this. The additional part of the footnote here is at the last selectmen's meeting, we presented out the overview, which is the presentation they'll do, attached to which was a listing of streets. And nearly instantaneously, people in one part of town were cheering and people elsewhere in town were not, which is exactly what we try to avoid when we look to do something like this. And that resulted entirely because the attached list was one of many versions that had been being presented when we were looking at doing a 3-year plan in each area of the 3 areas of town, doing the harbor, doing the center of town, and doing West Townsend. And the one that got rolled out was primarily the version that would have been for the harbor section of town, which by and large was nearly exclusively in Timberley. So that is not what's happening. So I'm not going to turn and look at Geraldine right now because she got a hold of me after the meeting. And she compelled me to try to drive Highland and disagree with her. I did and I can't. So the report that comes back is the one that should have been attached last week, which will be the 3 segments of town in all getting their fair share of attention. Highland, Clement, Bayberry, 3 in particular that we heard loud and clear the very next day, that this thing would have been blown out of the water without those being considered. What you'll see is with the document that's on the street as of last week that had, in addition to ash and beechwood, 3 beech and what's the other one? Maplewood. Those 3 still get the attention in this, but a lot of the cul-de-sacs and the smaller arterial roads in Timberley that were in that original version are not going to be in this existing version for the capital plan.
I want to finish the articles in
Sure.
general.
Yep.
But can we just, even though you don't have the report, can we have a discussion on it?
Absolutely. No,
Still, please.
I have a lot that I think is important to get out on that.
Okay.
Additionally, in the warrant would be this chart. And I need to gussy it up a little bit, but it basically stands for the proposition that if this vote were to go through for $5 million, predicated on the assumptions that we do a 10-year borrowing at 2.5% interest, to pay that annual debt service through a debt exclusion, if you have a home that is assessed at $100,000, you would pay $14.78 quarterly. $150,000 home, $22.17 quarterly, and so on. So this chart is just meant to give people a peek at what it is that they'd be looking at if they were to vote in favor of this.
Is that percentage the going rate right now?
It's what we could reasonably expect to get. I mean, obviously, you don't know until you do, but that's what is a reasonable expectation. So that's the first debt exclusion article, which we'll discuss in more detail when we get to that under my report later. You have this piece in yellow, the Neshoba Valley Tech Capital Project. The tech did submit an article looking for the town to agree to fund its pro rata share of their roof, doorway, and window replacement project. I currently have in the budget funding sufficient to cover that debt service in the operating budget next year. So without having to increase their debt line next year, we could cover this project going forward. So I've not built a debt exclusion warrant article because we've got it covered within the operating budget. And I think I understood that you would prefer that we not crowd the issue of a debt exclusion with multiple debt exclusions, that we let people focus on the one that has been deemed by the board to be most significant and most important.
And what's that, a 10-year?
Yes, there's going to be a 10. They're just retiring debt.
Finishing one.
Right, they're just retiring debt in fiscal '20, for which we have a payment of $92,000 or somewhat. We go to the details in the budget. And they will be rolling that new project on at or below that same level of debt.
How's the FinCom feel about that? Andrea?
Well, the other debt's going away, and then the assessment really isn't changing, so I guess.
Leave it in operating?
It's part of the operating budget.
The only thing I worry about is going forward, like, let's say next year or the year after, we end up with a real crunch in town for whatever reason, okay? Revenues tank or something. That still gives us the ability to take the other 8 years, if you will, and do a debt exclusion at that point, to take it off of operating and allow us to go up in operating.
Correct. It's not unlike the conversations that we've half had about the fire station. You know,
Exactly.
it was a project that went through for whatever the calculus as within the operating budget and not as a debt exclusion.
So there are things in the operating budget that we are choosing to leave there to avoid the complication, if you will, of a debt exclusion.
Correct.
But it leaves us the option that if we got squeezed badly enough and we're faced with, cuts of key positions or whatever, that we have that option going forward.
I've never seen it done, but we've been advised last year when we looked at it that it can be done.
Mhm. Okay.
So we then get into capital financial articles. The first of which is the capital plan. Now, I know a great deal of work has been being done in the last couple of days. I know, to recognize Carolyn specifically because she's been pinch hitting to try to get the thing off the ground. So I expect that there'll be, if not a meeting of the capital plan to vote a plan, at least the general consensus of what the plan might look like, and I may have to invoke the provisions that would allow me to put the plan forward. Either way, we'll have the capital plan in this article. It's contemplated by this placeholder, and it will be there.
I'd like to be able to see something before we go to town meeting.
I agree. My expectation is by the end of the week, we should have something.
Is that, Jerry, you're on it.
Yes.
Do you have a meeting scheduled this week?
We were supposed to have a meeting scheduled this week, it fell through. Our meeting is next Monday. However, we provided a lot of information to Carolyn today.
Yeah. So we'll be prepared. We'll be prepared to have something for next week that'll fill this. It will be the sheet that will show the recommended.
We're not meeting next week.
Oh, I understand. No, but I'll be able to circulate it to you. There will be a capital plan.
Okay.
So next we see the bridge project that we've been speaking of on Greenville Road over Walker Brook. This is it's a town bridge, so it's our obligation to fix. It's our obligation to make certain it's safe. It is currently barely safe. It has been deemed in failure. This is a project that we've received a $500,000 grant on. So if you read the description, the article would fund the badly needed replacement of the Greenville Road Bridge. This is a town-owned bridge, and it's our responsibility to cover the cost of replacement. We've been successful in receiving a grant, the amount of $500,000 toward the total project cost of $7 million, leaving a balance of $200,000 to cover. So this would be a borrow. So this would be beginning next year's budget. It would be authorized this year. The debt would hit in next year's budget for a period of time that is deemed most appropriate by the treasurer collector for a project like this.
And we're doing, that's within operating as well?
That would be within operating, correct.
So these are all raise and appropriate?
Capital plan would not be raise and appropriate. Yeah, that would be from the capital improvement fund and other sources would be identified. For instance, lease, second-year lease payment will show on the capital plan. It'll be notated that it's being funded from the police budget, operating budget. There will be something like, trying to think of one of the other outside sources that will appear in the capital plan. Normally, you would see fire equipment that would show ambulance receipts.
Water shows.
Yeah, water, in fact, cemetery and parks, water, correct. So, next you get to the water department submitted for authorization to pay down a bond anticipation note or ban for the Main Street water project. I don't have a description yet there because I don't want to write it myself, so I'll be making certain that we get that. I can tell you what it is. There was authorization last year to do a capital project, a water main extension project on Main Street, and before you finish the project and do permanent borrowing, you do a temporary borrowing, a bond anticipation note. So that would be to pay that off while they roll into the permanent financing. Bless you. Next, you'll see requests from the cemetery and parks, excuse me, just the cemetery of the cemetery and parks, looking to purchase cemetery equipment or take any action in relation thereto, and that's $9,500, and it was submitted by the cemetery commissioners. They're looking to purchase a mower for $9,500 and a wood brush chipper for $1,000. That number should be $85,000 and $1,000 with revised numbers I got from Roger today. So we'll do that. All right, that would be the capital articles. Next, you get into general financial articles. So this is the first view people will have at what appears as a bylaw request later. So it's a little cumbersome because the way the warrant is traditionally worded is you do all the financial stuff up front and then you get to bylaws later. But this is pavement management plan for which there is a draft bylaw being put forth to town meeting. So this is to see if the town will vote to appropriate from available funds in the treasury, specifically local receipts, automobile excise tax funds, the sum of $50,000, and further to transfer from free cash the sum of $250,000, both of which are to be further supplemented by the town's fiscal 20 allocation of Chapter 90 paving funds from the Commonwealth in the amount of $415,176, all to fund the town's fiscal year 20 pavement management plan. So, while we talk about having a debt exclusion for $5 million to do big things, we need to be cognizant of the fact that it's lovely to pave all the roads, but if you don't maintain them from year to year, it's good money for bad.
So this is setting up a savings plan?
This is setting up an annual amount of money that, when we get to the bylaw that's being proposed, will show by bylaw the voters in the town that you're serious about this, that the Finance Committee, the Select Board, the Town Administrator would be committing each year to put forth to town meeting funding sufficient to have $1 million available to do ongoing maintenance. So when you look at the roads that are contemplated in the pavement management plan to do crack sealing and chip coating, that type of stuff would be this $1 million a year. You'll recall perhaps from the report last week that they suggested in the report narrative that an amount of $700,000 a year would be required in order to maintain the roads once they've been approved. We'd be beyond that at $1 million. It'll take 5 years to get that excise tax fund amount to $250,000. We'd start at 50 a year. Next year we'd have 100. The year after 150, all the way to 250. So it'd be 250 of excise, 250 of free cash, and what will be roughly $400,000 to $500,000 of Chapter 90, giving us that roughly $1 million a year for ongoing maintenance of the roads.
Will some of that be used right away for the ongoing maintenance?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So if this were to pass as written, we would have $1 million. Well, excuse me, we'd have 8, because it's just 50, the first 50 of the excise. We'd have $800,000, which would be the first time in a long time we've seen that much money available. Even if the debt exclusion didn't pass, that would still be almost twice what we're normally seeing on an annual basis.
Yeah.
But the idea would be that this would,
allows us to continue to maintain and keep up with, and then some compared to what we've done.
correct,
While we
do the
catch
real,
up on the big stuff.
absolutely. Okay, next article is coming in from the Board of Assessors, and it's to authorize the Board of Assessors to negotiate and enter into a payment in lieu of taxes or pilot agreement with Lockbrook Solar LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, or its assigned, and the town of Townsend for personal property tax purposes related to a 1.4 megawatt ground-mounted solar array to be located at 22 West Meadow Road. So this, again, has been an ongoing project for more than a year. This would be the solar project that's been proposed down off West Meadow. And for tax purposes, the Commonwealth is all over the place in terms of how these facilities are taxed. So what's most common is the towns enter into a payment in lieu of tax agreement. The taxes on the underlying real estate remain the same. They are still paid. What this is reflective of is, what do you tax on the equipment? And some would say that it's personal property, which you then get into depreciation stuff, and it gets really messy pretty quick, and there's nothing standard that DOR has ever put out. So people negotiate these agreements, and you typically see a set amount per megawatt per year with an escalator out over 20 years.
So it's almost like they're calling it property.
It is.
like a
It's
property.
personal property. It's considered personal property equipment. I know that this has already been sent by the assessors out to council. Council's been working on it with them. So whatever comes forward, if this is authorized, will be right and will be tight. So again, description is something that I can add. I'll actually forward it off to the respective board commission to make certain that what I've written is appropriate. Next would be to vote to raise, appropriate, borrow, or transfer the sum of $35,000 for the purpose of funding a feasibility study to create affordable housing on Dudley Road. So this, again, originally appeared in the Housing Authority's operating budget request and determined that it was most appropriate out as a special article. So this, we're also carrying in our free cash number, the way we've determined how much free cash we have and where it would go if this warrant were to pass.
Have they also requested a grant for that as well?
I do not believe they have. I know there was a DLTA grant that the planning board went in with the master plan committee on.
That was planning.
And the fire department went in on DLTA for consideration for the regional study for
Yeah, there was some
communication.
talk about doing this, and I lost track of what was going on.
Yep, this would be the town meeting ask. Next, $5,000 for the 300th anniversary celebration to be held in the year 2032. Last year was the first year, and here would be the second installment, the idea being to continue to do small incremental amounts each year, so there'll be a pool of funds within which to kick things off once they really start. Next, overlay surplus fund, brief description. Every year we send out tax bills, and you have a right to challenge your tax bill. If you don't agree with it, you think that we're charging you too much. If you make a claim that we're charging too much and you're upheld and we agree you're charging too much, or it's determined by the appellate tax board in Boston that we're charging you too much, you don't have to pay as much. That would create a hole in our budget because we're believing that we're going to get the taxes that we bill. So you're required to hold an amount of money out in overlay, which is, it sits in a bucket, not a bucket, it sits in an account in case somebody gets their tax bill reduced. So that gets backfilled, so the budget is held whole.
So it's to protect against a shortfall.
Correct. And at the end of 3 years, if there's money left in that fiscal year's overlay from 3 years ago, and there are no claims against it, that can be declared surplus by the Board of Assessors. In this case, the Board of Assessors have an ask for $20,000 for the purpose of funding assessors' periodic inspections and property data verification program, as mandated by Mass DOR. So marrying the two, the assessors would declare $20,000 of overlay surplus as available, and it would be being asked of town meeting to appropriate it for the purpose of doing the data verification and inspections. Next is one of the other things that is new this evening. I have an email that I received, that I should have received, my computer received. It's dated, it's stamped, the day after we had a meeting in which a member of TIMO was asked, can you give us some numbers on what additional funding you need. So you asked me, did we ever receive anything? I said, no, we didn't. We actually did. Now, I have a copy of the email.
Would it go into
Right
your
up.
junk mail?
No, it was sitting right there. I just blew right by it.
Oh.
No offense, Kim, your name didn't stand out.
This is like-
So what they've got is, and I'm gonna just reach around here and grab this. They've got a request after doing an after-action study from the fire and having set up the emergency response center over at the church, that they are in need of computer and software, roughly $2,000, printer, $200, whiteboard easels, $480, Pelican case, God bless them, I don't know what a Pelican case is, $200, miscellaneous supplies, $400, luggage cart, $75, storage rack, $250. Comes up to $3,600. There are some other needs identified, cell phones and jetpack air cards, say to be determined. Those will be things we'll have to work on within the existing operating budget to determine how we're going to do that. It's just listed as to be determined. So given that those are one-off items that wouldn't be included, similar to the Council on Aging, you wouldn't have them appear in the operating budget. There would be the ask of $3,600 for providing emergency management-related equipment for the Townsend Emergency Management Agency, TEMA, for taking the action in relation thereto.
So that's the first time you guys saw that?
This is the first time anybody's seen it. Yeah.
First and third.
Yeah.
And which is that under? Is that under the ones we're doing?
This is the article that appears on, oh, we don't, I don't know which version you're working off there. It'll be the last of the general financial articles, just before stabilization. Next. Stabilization article. See if town will vote to raise and appropriate a transfer. Basically, we have stabilization, the description. It's to allow the town to place funding into the stabilization or town savings fund. So basically, you're allowed to put money in, you're allowed to take money out.
And recommended percentage of the budget is what?
On free cash, there's a recommended percentage of 5, which we're above stabilization. There's not a recommended amount. But suffice it to say that when you have your bond rating agencies look at you, which we will, if in fact we go forward with some of the capital we're talking about, they will look and see, are you going in the positive or the negative? What's the trend? And we have been putting in incrementally, but still putting in over the last several years, so this would be in addition to that, so the trend continues. Right now, we have 50,000 plugged into the spreadsheet on that.
This is good.
All right.
Wish it were more.
It may be. I mean, that's the last of the general financial articles, so we'll know what's available on the table at that point. General business, general bylaws, and adoptions. The first is to delete the current bylaw 90-1 and replace it with the following, and it's personnel policies and procedures. And this is very simply to make certain that everything that we have with our union and personal services contracts ties back to the personnel policies and procedures manual. This is something that's being worked on the other side of the issue at the collective bargaining table with the board. Next, you have the pavement management plan bylaw proposal. That M will be capitalized, I apologize. So what you're seeing is in section 1, there shall be in the town of Townsend a pavement management plan, PMP, described as below. Each fiscal year, the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, Town Administrator shall submit to the town meeting a proposal to fund the PMP. So stopping there for a second, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Town meeting can say no, but this bylaw would commit those 3 parties to put the plan forward, to fund the plan. Beginning in fiscal 2020, the funding shall include, first, all pavement funding received from the Commonwealth under Chapter 90 or any successor program, 250 free cash, and 50 excise tax revenue, increasing by, and that should be 50, increasing by 50 each year until the total equals 250. Let me just fix that. And section 4, in each fiscal year thereafter, the funding shall include all pavement funding Chapter 90, 250 free cash, prior year's amount of funding from excise increased by 50 each year until such time as it's 250. Section 5, all funding in the PMP shall be utilized for the purpose of maintaining and repairing the town's roadway infrastructure. Section 6, except in the case of emergency requirement, as determined by the highway superintendent, the priority listing of road projects shall be detailed in the capital pavement management plan developed by an independent pavement management consultant, with said plan to be updated every 5 years. So the carve-out there is if there's something extraordinary that goes on and the highway superintendent comes and says, we had a flood, this culvert washed out, the road is gone, I know it's not on the plan until 4 years from now, but we got to do it today. So except in the case of emergency, the pavement management, capital pavement management plan done by the consultant is the guiding document. And lastly, Section 7, PMP funds may be carried from 1 year to the next. That just says basically it doesn't go away. It's not like an operating budget appropriation that at the end of the year would close out. This money is being committed for this purpose and it stays for that purpose. So this has not yet been reviewed by council. This is nothing more than a creation of my crazy mind. But I feel confident that in near its entirety, that's how it'll appear. Next, you have a request to repeal Chapter 102 of the bylaws, recycling in its entirety, and or take any other action in relation thereto. And the Board of Health would be able to speak to that one.
Yep. Yeah, basically, it's not to, just so everyone knows, it's not to appeal, to repeal it and not have anything. It's just so that we can put in a rule and regulation, a regulation like we do with other things, tobacco, other regulations that we have. That's going to give us the flexibility to make some of the changes that we need to on a quicker basis than it would be going to town meeting to change the bylaw. We are currently working on changes, and I will tell you that you really don't want to listen to me have to read in pages on bylaw, so that's another benefit to the town. We wouldn't be holding up town meeting to go over it. We'd have a public hearing, and those parties interested could come in and give their feedback. And then we would put, changes in place and vote it in at a board meeting. Does that make sense? So what basically the attorney has told us is that Chapter 111 allows us to do this. We don't, as a Board of Health, we do not have to do bylaws. We can do rules and regulations. So that's from the attorney. So it just basically helps us react in real time in areas of need rather than waiting for a town meeting. Anybody have any questions on why we're doing it? So the recycling is not going away.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a different format.
So the description written there matches perfectly with what Linda just said. So I think we're all set there. Zoning bylaws. The first of the zoning bylaws is the planning board submitting for accessory apartment revision to the zoning bylaw. So this again is the result of a lot of work that's gone on over the last year, and I gather it's been a perennial issue, and it's finally getting the attention that it deserves and will be coming before the town meeting. I've not reviewed it. I know that planning board's been working with council on it, so I'm leaving my faith in that process. It's pretty lengthy. Submitted by the planning board, description to follow. While that one was pretty lengthy, this next one is extraordinarily lengthy. This is recreational marijuana. This is
depends on the votes, does it not?
Yes. If the vote that occurs at the ballot pass, there are going to be a number of questions. I think there are 7 or 8, if I remember. If numbers 1, 3, and 5 pass, then 1, 3, and 5 will be taken up on the floor of town meeting. If they all pass, they'll all be taken up. If none of them pass, then none of them will be taken up. So there are 2 corresponding bites at the apple here. So in this one...
So we can skip this one because there's
just
going to be
in the interest of time,
informational
we need
night.
to get going here.
Yep. Special legislation articles, majority vote. This is to petition the general court for the purpose of a charter review report. So this is the placeholder for whatever language is going to exist from the charter review committee.
When does that need to be?
We have to post the warrant by the 23rd of April.
I'm not sure if that was clear at the last charter meeting, so can we send something to John and let him know
Sure.
that that wording needs to be clarified
Yep.
as much as we can anyway?
Yep. Next after that is an article that comes in seeking to solicit for special legislation authorizing the town to continue the employment of Richard Bailey as police chief beyond his 65th birthday. 65th birthday next March. This would allow, if it were to pass, the opportunity for Chief Bailey to continue to work as a police officer in the town of Townsend up to and including through 2025. So 5 years beyond 65. It doesn't specify that it's just limited to police chief. It could be, as it reads, or a lesser position in the Townsend Police Department. It should be understood that this is independent from the Board of Selectmen's role and responsibility to either renew or not renew the chief. So if this were to pass, that doesn't mean that you're obligated in any way to continue the chief's employment. It just means that if you wanted to, you have the ability beyond 65. Citizen petition articles, which are the last of the articles. The first is the water commissioners have submitted to amend the town charter to correspond with previous town meeting votes. And I believe that this has been addressed in the most recent court filing, but I will defer to council on making that ultimate determination. This is what would be the next in what have been several town meeting votes. Footnote quickly, the town meeting action that would be required to affect what it is they seek is to establish a district, which...
So that is to establish a district?
That is not.
That is not?
That is not. This is just the next in what has been the same thing. It's not to establish a district. So that's why I say I'll defer to town council to say that this is made moot by the court case.
Okay.
And next you get to an amendment that comes in by citizen petition to alter the Recall Act. And that stands for itself as it reads. And lastly, we see a petition that comes in by petition, an article comes in by petition to seek to ban thin film single-use plastic checkout bags. Check out.
Was not even passed by our committee. I still have not had anyone reach out with that. That's the first time I've seen it.
Is it...
To our board, rather.
I'm just curious, do we know who the lead petitioner on this was?
I do. Andrew Shepard was the gentleman that was leading the charge on that. He's the one that came in seeking information on how to write a petition. Worked with the town clerk, came and spoke with me. Everything was certified by the clerk as having been the appropriate number of signatures and the appropriate
It's
form.
kind of strange that nobody went to the Board of Health, but...
And that's the last of the warrant.
Yay.
Can I ask you to move a little bit quicker because I'm not feeling the greatest?
Oh, great. Okay, well, we can't function without two of us here, unfortunately. Do you want to take a break?
No, I just bust through.
Okay. Where are we?
We just did 2, 3.
Road
So
plan
road plan presentation and discussion.
Can we put that off until we get that tomorrow?
Absolutely.
'Cause
Absolutely.
I want to review that first
Yep.
before
No,
I
absolutely.
comment.
Okay, and can we squeeze in another,
I'll chase Wayne tomorrow on that.
Yeah.
but can we squeeze in another meeting if we don't finish everything here? Okay?
We'll finish everything, it just won't.
Okay, but the problem on the road plan is that if we don't do it in a meeting, we can't have a discussion
No,
about
I
it.
know, I understand that. It's-
So-
but I want to read what the new one says.
So I need some time on your calendar then.
If you get the plan, which by the email I got should be tomorrow, you're meeting on the 26th at is it 26th?
The 18th.
18th? 18th.
18th.
Next soonest. So it could be agendaed for the 18th at
And I do
the
have time next
outside.
week if possible, if we need to.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's the outside, so, I mean, if there's more time in between, then that's great.
Yeah. It's just such a big project. I really,
Yeah. It deserves,
it deserves a good, thorough discussion.
I would recommend that we do,
Even just a work session.
even record.
As an only thing.
Record the presentation as a standalone issue and run it on loop. So people have the ability to see it as their schedule allows on cable.
I agree. So if we could put aside just a couple hours at some point, just one subject,
That's fine.
okay?
I agree with it.
So I can work around your availability, just work with Jim on when that is, okay? Board of Health, warrant article. Talk to me about the
Wood chipping debris.
wood debris stuff.
Oh, and I think the reason that we're requesting that it be presented also by the three, is the three being the highway and cemetery and parks, right?
Tree warden.
Tree warden. I think it was all three. Or actually, most of that's coming from their cleanups. Could be storm debris, wherever they're having to cut down trees. That's stuff that's not small branches, and it's been collecting there for years. So every few years, then that has to be disposed of using this tub chipper, I guess that's what it's called. And that's when we're going to the town to ask for the money, because it's not just the Board of Health. That's not what the recycling center was for. It was for the residents to bring in, leaves and small branches that compost down. So it has to be disposed of, running on a room.
Hasn't the tree warden always brought his stuff there?
Yeah, and I guess that has been, from what I understand, yes, they've always been doing that, but not really with the full Board of Health. It's the recycling center. You have to pay to get rid of it. So we shouldn't have to bear the cost, the town should, from our operating
If I
budget.
bring a truckload of branches, do I pay to leave it?
If you're a resident and it's small branches, no, you're not. These are not small branches. This is significant trees and logs.
Truckload of logs?
You cannot leave it there. You have to dispose of that yourself. That's not accepted at the recycling center.
What's occurred over time is that's a place that the town has access to store this stuff.
Didn't make it right.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying, it's been done, as Linda said, I think without an affirmative vote of the Board of Health to say, yes, we want to use this piece of land that's within our jurisdiction to store that stuff. It's just by inertia, if nothing else, it's just how it's been done. And I think Linda's point is fair, that it's not their stuff, so they shouldn't be asking to, bearing the brunt of asking for the funds to remove it. I think it begs a separate question about, is there another thing that can be done with the wood other than chip and remove? Some communities do a bid where, somebody can come in and they can claim the logs, they can, haul it out for heating purposes. So even if this is to go forward and get funded, between the funding and that being done, I think that we should really dig into whether that's
Okay,
something
so even
that
if it's,
help a resident.
if it's funded, who has the authority to spend it?
It's the Board of Health's land, it's the town's land. The Board of Health has, as a site-assigned parcel, has jurisdiction.
Okay, so the $10,000 would go to the Board of Health.
They would, I would presume.
To pay the invoice.
Yeah, I would presume they'd be the signatory authority because it's.
And
it's
is
on
the
their land.
board, is your board open to some of the other possibilities for getting rid of some of that stuff, like Jim mentioned?
I think so. I think that, there's some good ideas there that maybe, that we need to look
The
at.
chipping doesn't necessarily need to be the only option.
Correct, yeah.
And spending the $10,000 doesn't need to be the only
There's a
option.
program in the town of Athol does, Linda. I'll try to get the information for you, or you can
Yeah.
give them a shout yourself, but they do one where they put a bid out, you can come, you can walk, you can look at it, and then you put your sealed envelope in at the end of the day, and you've got X number of days or weeks to get the stuff out. You sign a waiver that if you get hurt, you're not going to sue us, and somebody ends up, with some firewood.
And I'm sure the board is, open to ideas.
So you'll work with Linda? Andrea?
What were the other bids on cutting it up? 10,000 seems awfully high.
Well, the one we just got was 20,000, really?
I
No,
don't
I'm
know,
saying it was
20,000.
20,000 to get rid of that, so it's still trying to get some invoices on it, so this is just an estimate.
Oh,
Really,
okay.
We don't even have the final numbers, yeah.
All right.
So who does the chipping? Who
A
would,
private contractor would come in with a tub grinder and,
but it's our grinder.
no,
He can-
No,
no,
They're basically renting that service.
yeah, you're having a
They
company
come
come in and
in
do
with
it.
their own equipment and do the
Oh,
work
I see.
and haul it away. And then it'll free up the space again.
Didn't you just say the car was getting a tipper?
Not the size
Not
that
that.
is needed for this.
Oh, okay.
No, this is a monster.
It's a big- Okay.
Yeah, Volkswagens with this.
okay. All right.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with that? I mean, people either vote for it or they won't, so you guys will speak to it. Okay, thank you. Just didn't know the details on it. 3-1. Motion for an appointment.
I move the board appoint Eric Monica, I'm saying that right, as a probationary police officer to the Townsend Police Department for a term effective April 2nd, 2019 to June 30th, 2019, with a one-year probationary period contingent upon the passing of a medical exam and background check.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm aboard.
Welcome, yes. May you stay long and happy. 4-1, review sign annual town election warrant.
Move the board sign the annual town election warrant for April 22nd, 2019.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-2, review, discuss zoning board mandatory referral regarding administrative appeal. Thank you, and I have no comment.
I thank the planning board for the referral.
No comment?
I don't have any comment. No.
Do we need to vote on no comment?
No, that's fine. It'll be in the minutes.
Thank you. Carolyn, what are we, just this one?
Yes, just that.
Do you need the date there?
You need the register.
Today is the
Second.
2nd.
Thank you.
I messed it up. I'm sorry.
5-1 town administrator evaluation. I'm sorry, Jim, but we hadn't heard back yet from town council on the summary. We gave her input to create a summary document. It should be in today, well, by the end of the week, I think is what she said. So we want to make sure that you have ample time to respond.
Yep, perfect.
So she'll send it to you, you do the response, and then we all get the same thing, okay? And that'll be scheduled for the 19th?
18th.
18th, rather? And that's okay with you?
Yep.
All right. Would you like us to
No.
do an official? All right.
No, I think the minutes are good.
Okay. 5-3, discussion regarding school resource officer. Wayne, I think you were going to
I met
present
with-
some kind of a summary.
I met with the deputy chief this morning to go over where we're at. The assigned officer is back from medical,
Oh, good.
so as far as I'm understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the resource officer is back on duty and in place.
Good. Glad he's feeling better.
So that's where we stand on that.
Okay. And is there any follow-up that,
The balance of the issues will be handled at the collective bargaining table.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. 5-3, discussion regarding update for 911 backup.
I have,
Just a brief.
yep, I have something from Chief Boynton that I'll read to you very
Oh, it was
briefly.
in his report, yeah.
Chief Boynton writes, nothing much new to report on the 9/11 backup, Jim and I. So the chief and I had a conference call with the director and deputy director of E911 last week. They shared the same information that was shared with you several weeks ago, that configuring the 911 calls to forward to Pepperell instead of Rutland if they were not answered by Neshoba is estimated to cost between $40,000 and $75,000, and that 911 will not cover that expense. As an alternative to this expense, I'll be sending a letter to Neshoba and Rutland requesting that in the event of a failure and Townsend 911 calls are being received in Rutland, that they will have to relay the information to Pepperell so we can be dispatched. This will essentially be a workaround until we decide when and if we'll be creating a regional dispatch with Ashby and Pepperell.
Okay, so, so the last correspondence I got from Director Posniak said that, I mean, I saw the amount, but it wasn't clear if they were going forward with doing that.
Right, they're not going to go forward unless we want to foot the bill. Everybody on the call agrees that the bill is incredibly high, and there's no reasonable way it should cost that. However, there is one vendor that deals with this issue for the Commonwealth, and that's the price. The chief asked for a copy of it. He did receive a copy of the estimate from the vendor. The issue is if Neshoba Regional was to go down, which we don't expect it will, it hasn't to date, but the protocol is that all calls will be forwarded to Rutland. Rutland does not have the ability to speak with us. They don't have the same radio frequencies.
So the 911 calls could go to Rutland, but they would be in kind of a black hole in terms of they wouldn't be able to dispatch.
Right. So the chief's recommendation was that we change Rutland to Pepperell if there's ever that failure, because Pepperell has the ability to speak to us. They have the same frequencies. So what he's saying in the document that I just read is, as the workaround, if it were to occur, the protocol will be that Rutland receives the call, refers it off to Pepperell, Pepperell dispatches. So there's an additional step in the middle now.
Which is unfortunate because it's a 911 call.
It is.
So it's not ideal at all.
Correct.
Okay, as long as it's clear to the state that, you know, thank you for your time.
Yeah, it was a good call.
Could you just send them off a
Absolutely.
note, please?
Yep.
With our thanks. Town administrator updates and reports. Anything new on the budget?
There are two items within the budget that I just wanted to bring to your attention briefly. One is the current contractor that we have that does the cleaning is no longer, her contract is up and she's no longer going to be bidding, doesn't have the time. She has a new venture that she's pursuing. When we went out to bid last time on this, we received her as a local bid, and then we received bids from several of the large janitorial, custodial businesses in the Metro Boston area, none of which met our interests or our needs. And everybody that's involved is strongly recommending that we not go down that road, because that's likely what we'll get as bids again, and it's not in our interest to have that lack of response that you generally get with a company that's that big when we are a client this small. So the recommendation was to actually transition the funding that was used for the contract into a sub 20-hour, a 19-hour non-health insurance benefited position. I know that Mark, Stacy, and Karen have talked about it. They're all on board with doing that, and at least for the year to see how it works, then we'd reconsider about whether we need to go back out or if there's perhaps a local that
So
might
this
be
would be a
interested.
person reporting to Mark?
Correct. It would be under
How
facilities.
much money are we talking about?
Right now, it's $19,760, which is less than the amount that we were carrying for the contract. The amount we were carrying for the contract, I would have to find here.
What does that equate to money-wise?
19,000 for a 19-hour position.
Yeah, we were, Carol, do you remember the amount that we were carrying for that contract?
I want to say it was close to 50.
Yeah, it was like,
$5,000 a month.
yeah, it was 40-something thousand, so this would come in at half of that. And the number of hours that 19 hours is something that they feel would be able to accomplish what's been done under that contract.
Okay.
The only,
Okay with that?
the only,
Finance Committee? That's a change. No, I know, I'm just,
What was the second, it was 19 hours for 19,000?
19,760.
19,760. So it's actually a reduction in the total expense from 40,000 plus down to sub 20.
Stacy from the library was going to actually speak to our cleaners to find out how much actual time is needed for the
Yeah.
in the library senior center, because that's the driving building. So it might not need to be 19 hours.
And the only other comment on budget is eventually at some point when the select board has voted budget and the FinCom has voted budget, would be to just change the heading from TA recommend to select board and FinCom, if there's consensus, recommend. So the budget going forward to town meeting has the stamp of,
okay, when do we plan on doing that?
with that one exception, the facilities that we just discussed, everything is as you've already seen it now multiple times. The bottom line,
I'm okay with the way that it is, but there's nothing that I disagree with
No.
in the budget. I've brought up my disagreements plenty, and we've worked through all of that, which is a pleasant feeling.
Yeah, I'm done
Who
with it.
would that go in?
what's that?
Who would that go in? The cleaner.
Facilities. The contract is currently under facilities, so there'd be a reduction in the expense line for facilities and an increase in the
Hours.
personnel line.
Would you like a vote from us?
That'd be great, certainly, to approve the fiscal 2020 budget as submitted.
I move the board approve the fiscal 2020 budget as submitted.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we're done.
Awesome.
And what about the articles?
At the next meeting,
We'll
we
do
could take up the ayes or nays on those, and then we'll be able to have the recommendations rolled in
Okay.
time for the final warrant to be posted.
Okay, so the next meeting where we'd be talking about that would be on the 18th.
18th, correct.
Okay? If you guys want to vote, yes, we're off cycle because of logistics with the board being able to meet.
Okay,
Okay, so it's not going to be on a Tuesday.
right. Who is in charge of the board at the end of the common? Is that one?
Cemetery and Parks.
Oh,
Cemetery and Parks.
because I could have sworn, I could be wrong, but I thought it said the mock meeting was the 18th. So somebody needs to switch it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll reach out tomorrow and find out.
Well,
It's not the mock meeting, it's the
I thought
it's the marijuana.
the marijuana meeting, but I don't think theirs is the 18th either.
Mock or pot?
No, I saw mock.
It's the 8th.
Are you talking about the flashing sign? Lynn?
Yeah, yeah.
Lynn, the flashing sign is about the marijuana hearing, nothing to do with the mock. We haven't advertised the mock town meeting at all.
Well, that's what I thought I saw today.
And that's,
No,
and that's
it's
Dick Smith,
marijuana.
he's the highway.
Marijuana.
Okay, so
And that's next week,
the
the 8th, okay? So anybody that's confused, that's a good one to go to. That'll save a lot of discussion if you want to ask questions. Water Department litigation, real quick.
Yep, very quick. I'll just read the order. It's just 3 small paragraphs. Accordingly, the judgment of the court declaring that, number 1, the Townsend Water Department is not an independent municipal body politic. Number 2, the Townsend Water Department, pursuant to General Law, Chapter 41, Section 69B, has exclusive charge and control of establishing fountains and hydrants, relocating or discontinuing the same, regulating the use of water, and the fixing and collecting just and equitable prices and rates for the use thereof, and prescribing the time and manner of payment of such prices and rates. And number 3, the Townsend Water Department pursuant to General Law 4169B is subject to such instruction, rules, and regulations as the Town of Townsend may from time to time impose by vote of its Board of Selectmen or Town Meeting, including the formation and implementation of Water Department employee policies and guidelines, formation and implementation of town fiscal policies and guidelines that apply to the Water Department, and general oversight of the Water Department. And that's signed by Superior Court Justice Kathy Tutman.
Thank you. Questions?
Nope.
I have none. Board of Selectmen announcements, updates, and reports, just to go over the dates. Our next meeting will be Thursday, the 18th. There is a possibility, because we want to talk about the roads plan as a specific piece, that we'll be having a meeting prior to that, okay? But that's subject to Wayne's availability, and we'll announce that, okay? Do you have anything else?
Nope, just the next
Okay.
section. I had a bunch.
Okay, so 6-3 is yours.
So the recycling committee's asked me to read some date announcements. So April 20th will be the town-wide cleanup. And you can get the bags, I believe, so to collect roadside trash at the town hall or the library, if that's correct. Earth Day will be on April 27th on the town common from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We'll have another townwide cleanup on May 4th all day. And May 11th, the 2019 townwide yard sale to benefit the kids' country playground. And the Friends of the Library are having their annual plant sale May 11th, 2019 at the to benefit the Townsend Public Library. Also, there's one in here too, the Lions Club Canoe Race will probably be contacting us for the May 4th date for their annual canoe race. But I don't have that officially, so
Oh,
that's all I have.
okay, thank you. I have no correspondence.
Nothing.
Anybody else? No. 6-5, approval of meeting minutes.
I move the board approves the meeting minutes from February 16, 2019 and February 26, 2019.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 6-6.
Move the board sign payroll and bills payable warrants outside of session.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Quick executive session, please.
I move the board move into executive session pursuant to GLC 30A S21A5 to investigate charges of criminal misconduct or to consider filing of criminal complaints, and we will not be returning to open session.
I'll second that.